Tonight on Central Extra, the owner of what may be the most haunted house in Britain.
I can tell you 100% ghosts do exist.
And the psychologist who, after 10 years of investigation, says spooks are all in the mind.
I think people's experiences are absolutely genuine. Do I think ghosts exist? Not for one moment.
Hello, I'm Bob Warman and welcome to a new series of Central Extra. Well, we've all heard things that go bump in the night and promptly curse next door's cat. But what if it was something else? Perhaps the haunting spirits of the dead trying to find peace. To find out more, I've been doing a bit of ghost busting.
I said, there's something funny about that corner. And a big flash came across, picked an 18-year-old boy up, flung him violently on the floor, and hit me there, behind there, pinned up against a wall, helpless.
I think people's experiences are absolutely genuine. Do I think ghosts exist? Not for one moment.
We're now more likely to believe in ghosts than we are in God. It's now claimed 2 out of 3 people believe in ghosts, but only half believe in God.
Yeah, I believe in ghosts. I think it's perfectly natural things. You die and just a spirit that stays.
Don't believe in ghosts, never have, don't suppose I ever will.
If you got like people that are alive, then why can't you have people that are dead? That's what I believe.
And 1 in 8 of us claims to have seen a ghost.
I've seen one. A friend of mine came over to visit and he said, who's in the kitchen? I said, no one. He said, I've just seen someone go in there. Then my guitar fell off the wall and went whang.
We saw this shadowy figure come out of Sot's Hole, glide across the road and go through the hedgerow.
Our fascination with the phenomenon has fueled television shows, ghost hunting groups and countless internet sites. But some scientists believe the whole thing can be explained by cold drafts, very low frequency sound and tricks played by the mind. One man convinced that ghosts do exist is John Humphreys, owner of the Ram Inn in Gloucestershire, reputed to be one of the most haunted buildings in Britain.
I can tell you 100% ghosts do exist.
Locals in Wotton-Under-Edge know all about its reputation.
I won't go in on my own, I don't think, no. But maybe with a few people I might.
I've never been in there, but I don't think I'd want to go. Don't think I'd want to go in there.
Well, I wouldn't want to go in there, no fear. No.
John says the former pub is built on a ley line from Stonehenge and is also the site of an ancient burial ground, which was the scene of human sacrifice. He says the Ram is home to more than half a dozen ghosts, one of which he encountered on his very first night there.
During the night, I was grabbed by the hands and pulled out the bed. Now that was my introduction to the spirit world. I knew nothing about ghosts or spirits, anything at all, until that happened. And from that day onwards, it's been 40 years of ghostly activity.
John says the spirits include a woman murdered by highwaymen, a crippled child, and a woman burnt at the stake for witchcraft. The most haunted room is the so-called Bishop's Room.
Is there anyone here? There's 2 monks appear in front of the fireplace, which walk up and down and go through the corner where the wash basin is, where there's either a priest hole or a doorway to an extension of the Ram which went as far again as what we see today. A cavalier appears in the corner, walks across the room. I would say there is an atmosphere of evil here.
But Professor Richard Wiseman has devoted a large part of his career to studying the phenomenon, and he has another explanation for the hauntings.
I spent around about 10 years investigating haunted houses and alleged ghostly activity. I'm just not convinced that ghosts exist at all. I think what we're seeing are experiences which are happening purely in people's minds. It's nothing to do with the existence of spirit entities. Some people are fantasy prone. They are very good at imagery. And so if they imagine seeing a ghostly figure, if they've heard the reputation of the building they're in, and they know there's supposed to be a room haunted by a little child, then maybe they're able to imagine that so realistically they actually see an entity out there. The other possibility is to do with what's called infrasound, very low frequency sound waves that can be created by the wind hitting a window pane or air conditioning units or whatever. Now we know that when people walk into infrasound, they can't hear it because it's so low frequency, but it can start to vibrate different parts of the body, including possibly the eyeball. And under those circumstances, you may get some kind of apparition.
That's the sort of thing you expect from learned professors. They like to show you how important they are, how their knowledge of this, that and the other, but they haven't actually had any ghostly experience like I have, because you cannot doubt what you see and what happens to you here. It's so real.
But it's not just scientists who investigate ghostly phenomena.
Do you reckon the footsteps have been heard? And a lot of people have been in here, Nick. They've like an atmosphere's come where they've not been, you know, they feel like they've been watched from wherever.
Yeah, you're right.
Tonight, members of the West Midlands Ghost Club are investigating reports of a haunting at a Warwick hotel.
How long has that thermometer been in position now?
10 minutes.
Should have...
It's dropped down by a bit, settled to 186.
Some members are sceptical, others are convinced ghosts exist.
I'm the total believer out the group, and the reason, my motivations to doing this is because of the things I've experienced in the past. My friend picked me up in a new car, and it was like a sunny afternoon, and as I was moving to the car, I looked in the back seat, and there was an old lady looking out at me. I said, well, I thought I seen like an old lady sitting in the back of the car, and he said, can you describe her? And I described her. And he said, it's really strange because this was my nan's car and I've never seen his nan before. And as a matter of interest, I sort of said to him, can you show me a photo of your nan? This was later on. And it was the same person I saw.
Opinion is divided about the work done by part-time Ghostbusters.
I think there's a tremendous attraction in these sorts of events. They're very, very popular. I don't think they're really about science. Essentially, they're about having a good time.
But the night's ghost hunting is fruitless and not a great deal of fun.
It's a long, laborious, frequently boring process, basically. I'd just like to find out what, you know, is causing, if you know, it might be ghosts, I don't know, but I'd like to see what is actually motivating people, is actually causing people to believe they're having these experiences.
In 1999, visitors to the Ram took this photograph, which some claim to be a ghost.
I think there's good reason to be sceptical whenever we look at a photograph of an alleged ghost. I mean, we could be looking at a double exposure, or an odd reflection of the light. Or it's very common for people to have the strap of the camera hanging in front of the lens that reflects the flash in a rather odd way to create this rather weird ghostly glow.
But how can science explain a fully grown man being picked up and hurled against a wall?
When I was picked up and flung across the room, was that rubbish?
If a witness says, you know, it's a really violent encounter with the ghost, they threw me against the wall, again, you could be looking at a psychological phenomena. They may have been very anxious because they're in a haunted place, they've worked themselves up into an extreme sense of anxiety, they've imagined the ghost is there to hurt them, and essentially they've thrown themselves against the wall.
There's things happening here all the time, which are certainly not rubbish.
Professor Wiseman says many of us have a deep-seated wish for spooks to exist.
I think that people believe in ghosts for all sorts of different reasons. First of all, it suggests there's an afterlife, and the idea of the survival of bodily death is a very attractive notion to some people. But second, I think it's kind of fun to believe that a place is haunted. I think people's experiences are absolutely genuine. Do I think ghosts exist? Not for one moment.
But John says skeptics would change their minds after a night at the ramp.
There's no way science can explain what is coming here, and they're welcome to come and see for themselves.
I think I'll find my spirits in another pub. But do you believe in ghosts? To vote, call us on 09011 123411 or text EXTRA with Y or N to 63338. Right, coming up, the woman haunted for 20 years and the man who thinks it's all in the mind. Hello and welcome back to Central Extra. It's hard to imagine that more than 2/3 of us believe in ghosts. That's more people than believe in God. And 1 in 8 of us claims to have actually seen a spirit. Well, the spooky figures speak for themselves, but they don't add up for you, do they, Tony? You're absolutely emphatic that ghosts do not exist.
Yes, I think in the common sense that you think they're spirits that live on after death. No, I don't think they exist at all. I don't think it's a scientific question, because science deals with natural things and ghosts aren't, so I don't think you can ever... I can't imagine what proof there could be, to be honest.
How can you be so certain?
Well, 99%. I mean, I'm not absolutely certain that my wife's not seeing the Pope while I'm away, but I'm pretty convinced, and I'll put this on a similar level.
Chris, one time you were a believer in ghosts, and then you changed your mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I can still just about get away with saying that for most of my life I actually believed in a whole range of psychic phenomena. Basically, I'm now a psychologist, and the more I learn about human psychology and about the ways that we can be fooled into thinking we've seen things that aren't really there, the way that we kind of process information, the problems of reliability of memory and perception, and so on and so forth, a whole host of other factors, I'm now pretty much with Tony. I mean, there might be such a thing as ghosts. You know, you can never be 100% certain, but certainly I'd bet that there aren't.
And you've been to lots of visits, you've had lots of visits to haunted houses?
I've spent far too many nights in haunted houses, and I've never seen anything that's remotely come close to convincing me that there's any kind of paranormal activity going on.
Okay, Phil, if I can come to you, you started off as a non-believer,
Yep.
didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
And then something changed your mind. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, various things have changed my mind over the years. My first sort of incident was when I saw my dead cat walk past my bedroom door, for instance, or these guys would think I imagined that I saw my dead cat, but things have gone from there, really. And I've been sort of a paranormal investigator for 18 years or so, and when you get things like physical touches where you actually move when you're actually touched, and you hear noises and you see things, you start to question what is it you've actually experienced.
Is he imagining things?
Well, he could be. I mean, I think that's a possibility. I'm sure he say he won't. But if we're to weigh up two possible alternatives, one that there is life after death and cats live off and they walk past you, or that you imagine it, then I would put my money on the imagination. I'm not saying that is the explanation, but of the two, I think it's much more likely.
But you're bound to say that anyway, because that's your position. So,
well, no,
all respect to you with that position.
No, but I think there are things people know that when they go through grief, they can see dead relatives and so on. The fact that you see it here in your head doesn't mean to say that your eyes are picking up light and it's going down the optic nerve and so on. It can be an hallucination. If that's probably not a term you feel comfortable with, but it can be something that you perceive but don't see.
Right.
I think that's entirely... And like Chris said, I think the memories can be faulty.
Sure.
Maybe you didn't quite see that. Maybe it was another cat you saw. Maybe all sorts of things.
But I'd just like to say that I agree that many people can imagine they're seeing something and they're not actually seeing it. Many times we hear somebody's got haunting and they want help. You know, most of the time it's their electrics, it's their plumbing, it's a nervous disposition. But then there is that line that's crossed. And the very first ghost I saw was in a flat, daytime, with somebody else. Didn't even believe in ghosts. Saw a kid falling down the stairs. And we're both chasing down the stairs and this kid screaming and bashing against things. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. Hits the floor and disappears. You just don't believe it. Brain's not taking it in. There's no reason to think, you know, a child should be falling down the stairs. We spent the rest of the day investigating and found out, not at the births and deaths, but in the old newspapers, 50 years to the day, a young lad had died falling down those stairs, January 21st.
Let's just take another experience now, and it's Lorraine's experience. Describe what happened in your house.
We've had lots of things happen in the house. We've had the dogs are sort of freaked out. The Labrador that I've got, she will actually sit in the kitchen and actually take something perfectly sat, and she'd actually sort of reach up as if she's taking a biscuit off you or something like that. Also, the Cavalier I've got is absolutely petrified. He just barks constantly at the stairs, growls, and then he actually runs in and hides behind you or wherever he can find to hide. We've seen, admittingly, what you see out the corner of your eye, like a shadow going up and down the stairs. We've had the TV come on its own. I've been
and you've
woken
also
up.
experienced, yes, you've woken up at night, icy cold breath.
Yeah, 2:45, 3:15 of the morning, for at least 15 years.
And what have you seen?
Don't actually see anything when you actually open your eyes, but if you've got children, the only way you can imagine it is the children are by the side of your bed waiting for you to wake up, and you can feel them breathing on you, but it's really chilly cold.
And we actually have a photograph, do we not, of a sort of ape-like
that was another
apparition.
Experience. That was the one thing, and we couldn't actually work out who this person was on the photograph. My son sort of had a look on the computer at it, and it actually is a figure of an ape. And after that, I became very, very uneasy.
Now, you've had your house exorcised, and in fact, that is the subject of an ITV2 series, Haunted House. It's coming up fairly shortly. Mia, you did that exorcism, did you not?
Yes, I did.
What did you do, and what happened?
Well, first of all, you had to make sure we had something there, and then we spent time trying to get some readout from it, to experience things, to get Chris to have a look around.
And Chris did have a look around.
And he looked at the photograph.
I did look at the photograph, yeah.
And what did you make of it?
Well, we totally looked at the photograph. Lots of people have different views on the photograph. I'm quite happy to say, I don't know what's on the photograph. It doesn't make it a ghost. I don't know what it is. I mean, and I'm quite happy to say I don't know what it is.
It strikes me as a bit like we had this thing with the face on Mars. You know, you looked at it from a certain distance, and for all intents and purposes, it looked a certain way. It wasn't until you got closer at a different angle you find it didn't look anything like that at all.
There's nothing in the room that's actually that dark,
I mean,
like a form of shadow.
The trouble is, it's impossible now to actually say anything. Yes, I'm like Chris. I can see something. But it doesn't strike me as that's any evidence of it being paranormal. I mean, let's say, I mean, even if it's a monkey, so what's a monkey?
I mean, my take on the photograph was that it didn't matter to me if I think it was a monkey or a dog or a person. What I thought was important is that there was absolutely determined that nobody was in that area of the room, and that they couldn't have been taken in the photograph. That was the main thing. That was the issue. Not what do we think it is, but what is it? You know, something got on to that mirror and into that photograph.
Well, you were there doing the exorcism. What did you feel, Mia?
Very oppressive, very heavy, and a sense of underlying fear everywhere. But normally when you go into a haunted place, it's normally a room in the house, and I'm looking for the room. And I'm walking around, and I couldn't find it, and every time I walked past the stairs, it's like, kept thinking something on the stairs, and I realised it was the stairs.
Chris, I mean, do you feel that people who have these experiences are slightly nutty?
Not at all, no. This is I mean, it annoys me when people say that, because effectively you've got people who are going... People often assume that if you've had some kind of experience like this, there are two possibilities. Either it really is a ghost, or I'm going crazy. And of course, they tend to prefer the idea that it's a ghost.
People like Tony and Chris are just non-believers. They don't believe in ghosts. Do you think they're slightly frightened that there might be ghosts?
I don't know. I mean, I know Chris is, and I've seen some of Chris's work before, and he's obviously an academic. And I tend to think that, no disrespect to you, Chris, but a lot of academics tend to worry about their academic status if they actually go, well, yeah, now you think about it, that could be, you know, a ghost or could be paranormal activity. I'm not saying that's what Chris does, but he's laughing at me now.
Sorry. I have no such fear.
Yeah, but, you know, it's just one
Tony says he's not afraid of ghosts.
I would just like to say, so you're not actually a scientist, are you?
Nope.
So where do you come with your standpoint? Is it just... You seem very angry and defensive with it as well. I just not want to...
No, I don't think so.
Where has this come from? Why is this great need to put down the idea of ghosts?
I believe... no, I'm not a scientist. I believe in critical thinking. I believe in the scientific method. I think there are ways of approaching things. I believe in rational thought, and I don't think ghosts come into either category.
And you don't believe in God, by the way, either, do you? No.
Lorraine, you've heard the sceptics really giving it some tonight. Is there anything they've said which could have changed your mind about what you've heard or experienced?
My house now is fine. There is definitely a difference in my house since the clearing. I always kept an open mind of all the goings-on that went on. I sort of thought, is it just the movement of a room? Is it a door creaking? Or was that my imagination, a reflection? But the more that goes on, the more you were convinced. I was definitely convinced. I started to get really, really uncomfortable. And since the clearing, I am convinced there's something out there.
And
nothing else will think differently.
I think that's fantastic.
Exactly.
Nothing will change.
I mean, if people believe that they've got a ghost, that is very, very worrying for them. And if Mia goes in there and people believe that Mia can get rid of that ghost and they feel better afterwards, well, I've not got a problem.
I think it'd be even better if a sceptic went in there and actually showed that it wasn't supernatural at all.
But if I thought that if it was all in my imagination and the telly come on its own, the lights went on and off on their own at various times, the way the dogs acted,
but the lights and television could be tested. They should be tested.
They were all tested. My house had been rewired and I had them checked 3 times because of the experience in the bedroom. 3 experts, 3 different electricians come in and there was nothing faulty, and that light is still there now. Since Mia's been in my house and cleared my house, that light has never flickered once.
It's one of those things, isn't it? It's down to personal experiences.
Yeah.
Down to personal experiences. I mean, if I'm sure, Tony, if something went, whoop, popped in front of your face, like, boo, I'm a ghost, and then vanished, you'd probably think, well, hang on a second, that was a bit
No,
freaky.
it's my imagination.
Well, it could be.
To be honest, I mean,
I'd have to say that.
Yeah. I think it's one of those the things that you have to experience yourself to actually believe it.
If you believe in something, it makes you feel comfortable, then believe in it.
Gentlemen, ladies, thank you for a very spirited debate. But what do you think? Do you believe in ghosts? To vote yes or no, call us on 090 11 123411 or text EXTRA with Y or N to 63338. Now remember, you can catch the result of our poll on Central News just before 11 tonight. And that's it from this week's Central Extra, and I leave you with a cautionary message that if you do hear a bump in the night, it's probably the central heating, or maybe not. Good night.